Hello, and welcome to Learning Interaction number 2. In this learning interaction, I'm going to be focusing on chapters 4 through 7 from the book and basically explaining to you what I learned about effective teaching methods, how to make the audience comfortable, and how to cater around the needs of a diverse audience. The first chapter that I'm going to focus on is chapter 4, and that is titled Designing Effective Instruction. Now in this chapter, it talks a lot about how to balance the dynamic between teacher and learner and how to basically write a lesson plan that is both beneficial for yourself, getting your principles across, and meeting the needs of your audience as well. Now, a lot of the things that they share in the chapter are putting different parts in your lesson. Like, don't let it be just one size fits all. It talks about sharing principles, sharing stories, just different ways to get the audience feeling comfortable about what they're learning and more susceptible to the materials that you are giving them. It also talks a lot about challenging the audience, and after each lesson, the importance of basically bringing something home with them. Like maybe you could have a little card that says some of the principles that you learned that day, or like a picture frame, and then have them bring pictures and like kind of draw on them like their notes, or just anything to help them remember what they learned and to remember that they're constantly working on bettering themselves in their family life environment. The next chapter that I'm going to focus on is chapter 5, and it is titled Engaging an Audience. Now in this chapter, it focuses a lot on the importance of having the audience engaged, because if the audience isn't engaged, it doesn't really matter what you're teaching. They're not going to leave with anything, and it would have been a waste of time. And I really like this chapter a lot because we are all teachers, and of course we want people to like us and be susceptible to all of the materials that we are giving them. And so this is like the best way to do it. And what it says is to always have positive statements. Maybe try opening up the floor with a positive statement or a question to get the audience involved and to get them excited. Encourage them to share personal stories. I know most of the classes that I've been in that I felt that I was participating the most in was when they asked me to share personal stories, because it creates an environment of safety and you can relate to the stories that all the other classmates or the other audience members are sharing as well, so you don't feel alone. And I don't know, it's nice. It's a nice environment. It also, one thing that I really liked as well is that it says emphasize positive things about the family. So try to focus on all the positive things and helping people realize that families are great, even though they're having problems, or there are tons of problems with families in general, that there are positive things about families. And when people focus on positive things, their mood changes and they're more willing to try the principles that you're sharing with them and take them home and applying them to their families. In chapter 6, it's titled Teaching Skills and Tools in Family Life Education. And in this chapter, it talked about different settings, kind of like what I said earlier, when teaching your audience or like your group. And some of the different settings are called like the fishbowl. You can have family council meetings. You can have skill training, personal narratives. You can even do role playing. And it basically talks about like the different techniques you can use in your teaching methods to meet the needs of the different audience members. For example, some things that you might use in like a family meeting are not necessarily the same things that you would use in a personal narrative or like a skill training. And just like the different things that you can focus on in different settings, and each one has its own benefits, and I really like that a lot. And I feel like as family life educators, we should be open to all the different types of education and structures that there are out there, because like they keep emphasizing in this book, not every single audience member or family or individual will be the same. And the more we're able to be flexible to them and meet their needs, the more susceptible they will be to us, and the more that they'll be able to trust us, and the easier it will be for us to help them. Okay, now the last chapter that I'm going to focus on is chapter 7, and that is titled Working with Diverse Audiences. Now, I really like this chapter as well because, like I said about chapter 6, it's so important to meet the needs of your audience members. And this is just another example of how easy it is to offend someone if you're not informed before you go into a meeting. Like in this chapter, it talked a lot about how different cultures perceive things in different ways. Like, for example, they talked a lot about African Americans, how they love humor and they love cooperation in families, and Native Americans, how they enjoy the past and information about their ancestors and like working together. Hispanics really love family, and there's a lot of loyalty and respect in those respects. And I think that's really important for us to understand as family life educators, because we never want to offend anyone. And of course we wouldn't do so intentionally, but if we're not educated on their background of the people that we're serving, that could be an easy thing to do. And other things that they wrote as a help is to make sure you know yourself as a family life educator. Know your audience, very important to know who you're teaching and their background and their dynamic and all those other things we talked about in the learning interaction number 1. Explore your limits, see what you can do, but of course do so with caution. Once again, we don't want to offend our audience members. Evaluating the program just to see what works better in some environments and what doesn't. Always like progressing to give our clients and participants the best help that we can give them. And also be flexible. I think that one is super important, only because not everyone is the same. Like, we keep learning, and it's just a way to help everyone feel comfortable once again, and just to be their friend and just let them know that we're there to help them, and we want their families to be great, and we want them to be great, and we want them to improve. And that's all I have for learning interaction number 2. Have a great day.